We're now joined by Sharnita Johnson, Program Director of Arts at the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation, also co-chair of the New Jersey Arts and Recovery Fund. Sharnita, great to have you with us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Tell us exactly what the New Jersey Arts and Recovery Fund is and why it matters.
So the New Jersey Arts and Culture Recovery Fund was established early in the pandemic last year when myself and co-chair of the New Jersey Arts and Culture Recovery Fund and Tammy Herman, who is with the New Jersey State Arts Council, who co-chair the Culture Funders Affinity Group, really started to understand the devastation that the arts and culture community was experiencing as a result of the pandemic. And early in the pandemic, we were estimating in the first 90 days that up to $25 million in losses were being experienced by arts and culture organizations. And of course, that number exceeds well over 100 million now. So we wanted to do something. And so we convened the arts and culture foundations and philanthropy leaders in the state and talked about these dismal numbers and put out a call to establish this fund. And my co-chair, Jeremy Grunin of the Grunin Foundation, immediately raised his hand and said, I'm in, let's do this. And from that moment, we've been full steam ahead. We've raised about $4.5 million to date and distributed a lot of those dollars. We're in the process of distributing the second phase of grants already. And so it's been an incredible resource. It's been incredibly important to the arts and culture and history sector. And we're continuing to fundraise because the need is still great.
You know, there's so many, we've been doing a lot of segments around the arts and COVID, but I don't know if people really truly appreciate or understand what the arts mean until you don't have the arts accessible to us. What would you say, particularly in underserved communities, the importance of arts truly is moving forward and why it's more important than ever right now?
It's incredibly important, first of all, because it keeps us connected. So I've been saying since the beginning of the pandemic, if you've binge watched anything on Netflix, which I think we all have, if you've listened to music, if you've done anything remotely creative, or your kids, arts education has been really, really very important, then you know how important the arts are. However, we're also looking at a sector that has a very vulnerable workforce. So a lot of teaching artists are supplementing their income as working in the service industry, for example. So some of those folks lost almost 100% of their income as a result of this work. There are about pre-pandemic 22,000 culture workers in the state. That's a lot of people to have lost their income. So I think it's bringing us together. It's healing. It's keeping our kids engaged. It's keeping them on track with their education, and so many other things. And it's an economic engine. Pre-pandemic, the arts and culture sector and history sector generated over $500 million in revenues for the state.
Other quick point, as it relates to racial, social, injustice, equity issues. We've been involved in a series called Confronting Racism for well over a year now. Connect the arts to racial and social injustice.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, Steve, because when we really were thinking about how this fund was going to support those communities that are most vulnerable, those communities that are disinvested, we knew that we had to really think about how the arts and culture and history sector were serving those communities. So we really established the fund, number one, with a threshold of organizations that have an operating budget of less than $3 million. Those organizations tend to be smaller, and many of them are not even at an operating budget of that much. They're smaller, they're less networked, they have boards that may or may not be able to necessarily fill those fundraising gaps for them. And we also wanted to make sure that those communities were continuing to be served in some level. So the fund was really structured to provide extra weight to those communities and to those organizations that were led by people of color or primarily serving people of color. And those are the organizations that tend to be more than just arts organizations and culture organizations in their communities. They're also community connectors. They're also the place where people go when they're in trouble, when they need support, when they need a referral. So we knew that we were not only supporting artists and arts organizations, but that we were supporting communities that needed it.
Before I let you go, the vaccine matters here, does it not?
Absolutely.
30 seconds, a message to those who are resisting, particularly in urban communities. From your perspective, what's your message to them?
Well, Steve, that question is very personal to me because I lost my oldest sister in January to COVID.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you so much. And so I'm a huge booster of the vaccine. I'm vaxxed. I wear my mask still. I want to encourage people to get the vaccine. It's safe. It'll help us come back together sooner, and it'll keep us all safe.
Sharnita, thank you.
It's my pleasure.
To you and your family.
Thank you.
We're sorry for your loss. You just sent a very powerful message to a lot of people who need to hear it. We wish you and all your colleagues all the best. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
I'm Steve Adubato. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, Prudential Financial, the Fidelco Group, New Jersey Sharing Network, the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Rutgers University, Newark, Choose New Jersey, and by ADP. Promotional support provided by New Jersey Monthly and by Meadowlands Chamber.
I'm Tim Sullivan, CEO of the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Since joining the NJEDA, I've been struck by the incredible assets and resources that New Jersey has to offer. The NJEDA is working every day to grow New Jersey's economy in a way that maximizes the values of those assets to benefit every single New Jersey resident. This includes more support for small businesses and a focus on reclaiming New Jersey's position as a leader in the innovation economy. Visit njeda.com to learn more about how NJEDA is building a stronger and fairer New Jersey economy.